All right, good evening. This is the Cortez City Council regular meeting. Today is Tuesday, January 28th, 2025, and the time is 7:32 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order and ask you all to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, Linda, can we have the roll call?
Kiefhofer.
Here.
Haven. Brule.
Here.
Dobry.
Here.
Randall.
Here.
Lewis.
Here.
Tina.
Here. Mayor Pro Tem Lydia DeHaven is excused tonight for hopefully soon to be the birth of her baby. We're still waiting, so. All right, and then can we have approval of the agenda as presented, or?
Madam Mayor, I move that council approve the agenda for January 28th, 2025.
Second.
Motion made by Lewis and seconded by Dobry.
Lewis.
Aye.
Dobry.
Aye.
Kiefhofer.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Brule.
Yes.
Medina.
Aye. All right, we're going to move on to number 2 on our agenda, the consent agenda. The consent agenda is a listing. The listing under consent agenda is a group of items to be acted on with a single motion and vote. This agenda is designed to expedite the handling of limited routine matters by City Council. Either the public or a council member may request that an item may be removed from the consent agenda at the time prior to council's vote. I will ask if a citizen or council member wishes to have any specific item removed from the consent agenda for discussion after reading the list. A, approval of the council work session / special meeting and agenda minutes for January 14th, 2025. B, approval of the expenditure list for January 28th, 2025. C, approval of a renewal retail liquor store liquor license application for West Slope Liquors, Inc., DBA West Slope Liquors, located at 2212 East Main Street, Suite Number 1, Cortez. And D, approval of a renewal tavern liquor license application for Cortez Conference Center, LLC, DBA Destination Grill, located at 2121 East Main Street, Cortez. Would anyone like to see something removed for discussion?
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Dobry and seconded by Lewis.
Brule.
Yes.
Randall. Lewis.
Aye.
Kiefhofer.
Aye.
Dobry.
Aye.
Medina.
Aye. All right, we're going to move on to number 3 on our agenda, public participation. There's no limit to the number of speakers, although public comment will be held to an overall time limit of 30 minutes. Speakers have a time limit of 3 minutes per person, may only speak once, and may not cede time to another commenter. And we have no public comments tonight, so we'll move on to number 4 on our agenda, presentations. We have none. So number 5 is public hearings. We have none tonight as well. Number 6 on our agenda is unfinished business. We have none. So we'll move on to number 7 on our agenda, new business. 7A is the Cortez Police Department parking lot fencing project. This will be presented by Casey Simpson, our General Services Director. And just make sure your mic's green. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, hey. Good evening, Mayor and Council. The Cortez Police Department fencing project. This project was initially scheduled for last year. Due to some scheduling and budgetary constraints, it was put off until 2025. I was able to contact and work with the low bid from last year, which was selected by the bid committee. They are still willing and excited to do the fence. The new bid price is only $3,000 more than the original price at $119,820. There is funding for the project, and the staff recommends that the council award the parking lot fencing project to Peak Fencing Limited. If agreed upon by the City Council, a possible motion would be, I move that council approve the bid from Peak Fencing Limited at its updated price of $119,820 for the police department fence installation, and that the city manager be authorized to negotiate and sign a contract on behalf of the city for this purpose. It's kind of short and sweet. This is my first time, so.
How many bids did you have on this project?
2.
2 bidders?
Yep.
And when would the project occur? Sorry if I missed that.
They are looking to start in March, depending on weather.
How long is it going to take to complete the project, do you think?
I would hope it's done in 2 months, I would say, but that's really weather dependent, and I couldn't say for sure.
Do we know if there's any difference in the materials that are used for the project? Have they gone up like many things over the past year? Is that the kind of the difference in the bid?
I think metals stayed about the same. The materials quoted originally and recently are the same materials, so there's been no change there. I would imagine that personnel costs might be to account for the $3,000 difference.
Where is Pink Fencing out of?
We're out of Colorado Springs.
And we have several local fencing companies. They didn't bid on this project?
My understanding, looking at the historical memos and stuff, is that the local outfits that, so this has gone out to bid a few times. They didn't have the ability or the want to use the type of fencing, this kind of nice black with an outward arch look and feel to it that we were wanting. They had more of just the chain link option locally, so that may have accounted for the fact that they didn't bid the second time around.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make the motion that council approve the bid from Peak Fencing Limited at its updated price of $119,820 for the police department fence installation, and that the city manager be authorized to negotiate and sign a contract on behalf of the city for this purpose.
Second.
A motion made by Kiefhoffer and seconded by Dobry.
Randall.
Aye.
Dobry.
Aye.
Lewis.
Aye.
Spruill.
Yes.
Kiefhoffer.
Aye.
Medina.
Aye. All right, we're going to move on to 7B on our agenda, a copier contract for Service Center, City Hall, and Cortez Police Department, presented by Casey Simpson, our General Services Director.
All right, thank you. The copier contract for the Service Center, City Hall, and Cortez Police Department is, it's pretty exciting for me just because we got looking at some local options. Currently, we're using a vendor out of Albuquerque. This all began because the lease was up at for the copier in the service center, and when we started looking at the different vendors, we got quotes from suppliers in Grand Junction, Albuquerque, and locally. Currently, the city is, for all of its copy needs, on a 2-year copy contract. I am hoping to go with a 60-month or 5-year contract, which is longer than normal because it's less than half the price of the 2-year contracts. If we go with the new copier contracts as presented, we should save the city in over a 60-month period about $54,000 on all the copiers that we have throughout the city. So there's a lot, in my opinion, to be gained by going with a longer contract. The recommendation for this agenda item is that the council award the copier contract to ImageNet Consulting, LLC. All 3 bidders were qualified to provide the necessary copiers. However, ImageNet Consulting will meet the city's needs with the greatest value and service provided. ImageNet is also local. Their techs live locally and can respond more quickly to service requests. If agreed upon by the City Council, a possible motion would be, I move that council accept the quote from ImageNet Consulting LLC at its bid price of $182.55 for the service center, police department, and city hall color copiers, and that the city manager be authorized to negotiate and sign a contract on behalf of the city for this purpose.
You answered a lot of the questions I had, but one thing that would really be helpful for me, and I think the rest of the council would agree, is if we had a comparison so we can compare these bids. All we're having is your word saying, hey, this is what you need to do. And typically, we're going to say, yeah, you're right, this is exactly what we need to do. But if we have it in front of us and there's somebody that's a low bidder that has the same qualifications, yet we're accepting the higher bidder, we don't get to see that. So in the future, I would love to see your bid comparisons. And you told us why you reached that, and that's excellent. That's what we need to hear. But in the future, if we could have comparisons, I don't know if the rest of the council agrees, but it would be very helpful for me.
And I apologize. I thought I attached the different lease bids from the different vendors, and I may have forgotten to, or I may have been successful in doing so, but I can include those or send them through.
Those quotes are in there. I think what the counselor is saying is like kind of a one sheet with almost like the three bidders, their prices, the terms, just a sort of simplified one page rather than us looking into all the bids. That I think makes it the easiest for us to look at a bid like that.
I will do that moving forward.
I did have one other question about the longer term contract. If there are issues, particularly towards the end of the contract, are those machines replaced? How does that work? Where if you're in year 4 or 5 and you're kind of wearing it out?
Yeah. Contextually, the machines that we have right now are past their replacement date and are likely older than 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
So we have that going on currently. It's a great question. I think this is across the board. If a copier has an issue that can't be fixed by a service tech, then they replace the machine. And typically the problems with copy machines are handled by the service tech, which is included in that price.
Great.
So the service agreement includes making sure the toner, cartridges, and all the common issues are handled. And ImageNet has a 2-hour response time, so if a machine goes down, we can have it fixed hopefully the same day, whereas our current vendor, it can take up to 48 hours to get a tech up from Albuquerque. So I think as far as my comfort with the service and repair of the machines, I'd be more comfortable with somebody local being on site.
Thank you.
Casey, first of all, I want to welcome you in your new position. You've got some big shoes to fill there.
Yeah, thank you.
Question for you regarding the bids. It gave a price per copy, but is the $182.55 per month, and then on top of that, do you pay for every copy? Or I thought I saw one bid that contained 2,500 copies of black and white at a certain price, color copies at a certain price, and then it seemed like anything exceeding that, you paid that price. So I just want to know about the bids and copies.
Yes, sir. All the quotes include the prices presented includes the lease fee and the service, and then all the quotes separately. You pay for the copy depending on if it's color or black and white, and that is correlated to the toner printer recharge necessity. All of the, and they are less, like all of the per page costs are below 1 cent. Some of them as low as 0.0075 for a black and white copy, and all of the quotes took into account the I sent out our current copier usage to all the vendors to make sure that we weren't going to, they bid it according to what we use now. So unless we have a really sharp uptick in our costs or in our printing needs, which hopefully we have a downward trend because more things are available digitally, we wouldn't have an issue in that regard.
Thank you.
And it does look like the ImageNet, they have the lowest price per black and white and color in it as well, which is
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
I was unclear. It says that ImageNet has a local presence. What does that mean?
So
Where are they located?
the show floor for ImageNet is in Farmington. Their tech lives in Dove Creek, their lead tech. And so they have a team that live in Montezuma County to deal with the Montezuma County machines that they lease and service. All of the other bids had techs that lived more remotely in Albuquerque and Grand Junction, respectively.
Just a real quick question. I'm assuming that all the departments have copy codes, so they're responsible within that department to pay for copies. Is that correct or no?
I don't think we've got that sophisticated, no.
No? Okay. All right. We'll make as many copies as you want, everybody.
Oh, that's not.
Well,
Sounds great. No, I'm just kidding. So I just was curious about that. And then I just want to say that I think that ImageNet serviced the school district, which is a pretty heavy user. And I do recall our copy machines not being down for a very long period of time. It seems within a few hours even that somebody would come and fix them. Do you know if that's the case, and maybe if like the hospital or some other big users in the community might also use ImageNet?
the school district definitely does. We already use ImageNet for some rogue copiers within the city purview. They're just not all ImageNet currently. The four that we're looking at tonight, of the four that we're looking at tonight, two, I believe the ones at the police station are already ImageNet. We're just continuing with ImageNet. The copier at the service center was a different vendor out of Albuquerque. Yes, the response times are, they say 2 to 4 hours. And when I worked with ImageNet at the school district, that was the case as well. I think I answered all the questions. And we can put codes on the new copiers to track who uses them if we want.
Is the library printer copier on your radar? Because I feel like it's always having issues, and as someone who works from home but needs to print and doesn't own a printer, I've used it a lot, and it's either sometimes down or just kind of unreliable.
Absolutely, it's front and center on my radar. Their lease is up in August, and we'll be hopefully transitioning them into a much better machine.
Awesome. Thank you.
I move that council accept the quote from ImageNet Consulting LLC at its bid price of $182.55 for the Service Center, Police Department, and City Hall color copiers, and that the city manager be authorized to negotiate and sign a contract on behalf of the city for this purpose.
Second.
Motion made by Dobry and seconded by Lewis.
Dobry,
Aye.
Randall,
Aye.
Lewis,
Aye.
Brule,
Yes.
Buffer,
Aye.
Medina.
Aye. All right, we're going to move on to number 7C on our agenda, the Colorado Municipal League 2025 Annual Conference. City Manager Drew Sanders?
Yep. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yes, the Colorado Municipal League Conference this year is in Breckenridge, June 24 through 27. As I explain this to you, I'm also explaining this to the community of what an important educational event this is, with many cutting-edge programs and lead industry experts, and certainly some good keynote speakers that are as educational and useful to both elected officials and staff members. So in the past, we have sent council members to that. This year, Mayor Medina, who was elected to the executive board, goes by nature of that, and her fees are paid by CML. However, we have budgeted for 2 council members to go in addition to Mayor Medina, and I'm coming to you tonight to hopefully get a couple of names that would like to go to CML this year. And therefore, I pose that question to the council.
I know last year when this was brought up, Councilmember Randall and myself, being new members, pretty much designated to do that. But I had an obligation at that time, so I would definitely like to attend this.
Okay?
I think that's a great idea, because I think all of us have gotten a chance to go at least once, and so I'd love Bill to have that experience. Anyone else interested? How about you, Matt?
Yeah, I would go. I don't know if you remember last year, I said I would not like to go. Yeah, I would go. That would be my last chance to go to CML. So, yeah, I'd do it.
Did I say Breckenridge?
Yes, you
I
did.
don't know if I mentioned
I
that.
do like Breckenridge. It's hard to ski in the summer, but
Okay, am I okay, council? And perhaps I can just pose it to you, Mayor. Are we okay with Councilmember Lewis and Kefauver? And I'm not seeing anybody else showing a lot of interest, so we will go with those and move on. That answers my question.
I guess
Thank-
my last question is, like, June is pretty far out from now.
Correct.
So if, something happens and either Bill or Matt can't attend, is it easy to transfer?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Do we want to establish an alternate if something happens? That might be very useful as well.
I've been to 2, but I'd be an alternate if you need an alternate.
Okay, we'll put Councilmember Sproul down as an alternate.
Okay,
Thank you, council.
great. Okay, we'll move on to 7D on our agenda, letter of support for the Colorado statewide digital trunked radio system, presented by Drew Sanders, city manager.
Yes, council, this
Sorry,
has,
hold on.
So I'm going to move that,
Oh, shoot, yeah, we got to make a motion.
I'm going to move that
okay, yeah,
okay,
fair
that
enough, yep.
Councilmember Lewis and that Councilmember Kefauver be selected to attend the 2025 CML Annual Conference. I would also like to move that Councilmember Sproul be designated as an alternate.
Second.
Motion made by Randall and seconded by Dobry.
Lewis,
Aye.
Randall,
Aye.
Buffer,
Aye.
Dobry,
Aye.
Brule,
Yes.
Medina.
Aye. All right.
Okay, moving on to a letter of support for the Colorado statewide digital trunked radio system. So in a sense, if you notice that our fire department, our fire protection district that was here, and our police officers, they all use the 800 megahertz radio system, which is just light years ahead of the old VHF system. They are able to literally talk statewide if they have the channels installed, and should a major event occur, then it's easily patched over, and we have had a couple of major incidents here where we've needed that interoperability and ability to communicate. That funding is threatened. It is only funded through the end of June 2025, and with the statewide budget shortage, or on the state government level budget shortage, this has been threatened in committee. Therefore, our emergency manager, or the county emergency manager, Jim Spratlin, has been working with state officials and those in the know on this, and suggested that we as you as a council put together a letter of support suggesting that the state make this a funding priority. My understanding is that our county partners have already passed a similar item, and a letter has most likely already been sent off. I am requesting and suggesting to council that you adopt the same measure and use the letter that is presented to you, and allow the mayor to sign it on your behalf. We would be sending that to our all elected representatives, including the Colorado Department of Public Safety legislative liaison, so that they're all in the know on the issue. So I pose that to you, council, and request that you allow the mayor to make this signature on your behalf.
I was part of the 800, I'm sorry, I was working when they came out with the 800. It is light years away from that other radio system. We cannot afford to go backwards. It's not something we want, it's something we really need. With that being said, I'd move that council authorize the mayor to sign the letter of support for the Colorado statewide digital trunked radio system on the behalf of the Cortez City Council.
Second.
Motion made by Spruill and seconded by Lewis.
Spruill,
Yes.
Kiefhoffer,
Aye.
Dobry,
Aye.
Randall,
Aye.
Lewis.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
All
you,
right.
council.
Thanks for bringing that to us. All right, we're going to move on to 7E on our agenda, appointment to the Cortez Historic Preservation Board. So go ahead, Linda. City Clerk.
Good evening, City Council and Mayor. Due to the resignation of Kathleen Russell from the Cortez Historic Preservation Board, there's an at-large open seat. Tonight, Council interviewed the 2 applicants that we received letters from, and if Council would like to make an appointment, we can do that, or we can continue to receive letters of interest. Staff is just looking for direction on how you'd like to proceed.
Madam Mayor, I would actually consider both of these individuals to be good friends of mine, and so I should probably recuse myself from the vote.
Okay. Thank you. So if you want to, we'll call you back in when we're done. Thanks, Kiefhoffer.
I was just going to say that it's really nice to have 2 really strong candidates for a position where a lot of the time for our boards we have difficulty filling them, and with that, unless anyone has any objection, I think I'd like to nominate Brian Yaquinto.
I would agree with that. I would second that. What really stood out about his application is, he has 15 years of archaeology experience, but what really jumped out was he's been involved with the National Registry nomination. I think that's going to really help us out. But I was, like Robert, I was very impressed with both applicants. They were extremely well qualified.
I too am very impressed with both applicants. The only thing I would say is not going against your gentleman that you're supporting, but on Diana McBride, she appeared to know the history of Cortez really well. And she just came with it off of the cuff. She had her favorite buildings. I mean, she knew the actual history of this town, not specifically in generality. So I tend to favor her, but I think they're both great candidates. Either way is fine.
Oh, yay, I get to jump in there. I think both of these candidates, we cannot go wrong. It doesn't matter. We're not going to go wrong. But in the 3 years that I've been a councilman, we've never had this come up. So I'm going to also go with Diane. That way our mayor gets to decide who is going to be.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna lean towards Brian just because of kind of what Councilmember Lewis said with the National Register, because I think the understanding of our community is really important, but I think that will also push us to that level of getting more maybe on that National Register and that benefiting our community via funds coming in or tax credits. I don't know, it's hard because, I think either would be good, and, so if you want to make a motion. Okay.
I move that council appoint Brian Yaquinto to the Cortez Historic Preservation Board through April 2026.
Second.
Motion made by Dobry and seconded by Lewis.
Dobry,
Aye.
Randall, Lewis,
Aye.
Brule,
Yes.
Medina.
Aye. All right. Okay, we're gonna move on to 8 on our agenda, draft resolutions and ordinances. We have none. 9 on our agenda is city attorney report. Unfortunately, our city attorney is out sick right now. It's that time of year. I think we've all kind of gotten it this season. So we'll move on to 10 on our agenda, city manager report.
Yes, Mayor and Council, I do have a report for you this evening. A couple of items, and I wanted to thank Council for recognizing Mr. Casey Simpson, who is our new General Services Director, and his first time appearing before Council at the diocese, or at the podium this evening. But I also want to recognize Beth Edson. Beth, if you could, there we go. It's her first visit here. She was ill the first meeting in January, so it's her first visit to council. And these two have just been a real great addition to the team, and we're just super glad to have them. So welcome, both of you. Moving on, I just wanted to express to council and by extension to the community about a change in refuse pickups in a new area in town. So they're going to be changing. Now, this last year they changed it up on kind of the east side of town. This is moving towards the more of the west side of town, to starting March 3rd, 2025, to include Madison to Broadway, and then 7th to Ridge Drive. So what we're doing is we're requesting the change from pickups in alleyways to curbside pickups, so that we can use our new automated side load trucks. And that by doing that increases employee safety, certainly ease of access, and optimization of routes. We have got more and more efficient, and if you recall, these trucks are able to pick up literally 3 times as much with one driver as the old rear loaders are. So the refuse division is already out communicating with people. They are communicating with door hangers and in person and via social media, and doing everything we can to communicate and give people plenty of time and leeway for that. So I would like to say just thanks for your willingness to work with this community. Also wanted to express that we have a complete draft of the revised land use code, and I think that's no secret. We've put it out, but hoping the community will weigh in on this. This draft code aims to improve the administration and simplification of the development review process and address the city's current housing needs. Community feedback was sought through 40 community listening sessions, multiple public open house events, public outreach at community events, regular updates to including the press and other media, land use code advisory committee composed of local residents, business owners, and builders, and 10 presentations to the Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Council. So the process from here forward. The upcoming hearings will start on February 18th at 6:30 p.m. in this room at the Planning and Zoning Commission, and start that process. Then the first reading of a proposed land use code adoption ordinance will be presented to this council on February 25th at 7:30 p.m. in this room. And then we are hopeful that should council pass that on, that there will be hold the second reading and public hearing for adoption of the new land use code on March 11th in this room. With that being said, that concludes my report for this meeting.
Great. Thank you. We'll move on then to 11 on the agenda, city council committee reports. A is the mayor's report on the workshop. So first we had a presentation from our fire protection district from Fire Chief Roy Wilkinson. Our current fire rating is moderate. He shared with us the areas of concern around our community, dense housing, natural areas around town with lots of vegetation and little to no mitigation, areas of concern out in the county as well. Explained that the Cortez is surrounded by a high-risk WUI, which is the wildfire urban interface, wildland urban interface, and then the fire coverage they have, the vehicles and resources and mutual aid resources, that they have access to. Montezuma County has a wildfire protection plan that was completed in 2022. It's up to date. I think that document's updated every 5 years. And then we have a local resource, the Wildfire Adapted Partnership. They have a Montezuma County representative, and they help with education and potential funds on how to help communities and like subdivisions and residents be fire wise and what kind of mitigation they need to do. And then we had a presentation on the fire suppression, water availability by Public Works, talking about the water resources we have to fight fire, our hydrants. They are tested every 5 years, and that we're generally in a good place, but we're definitely not immune to fire risk. And then we had a presentation from the project engineer, McLean Farmer, presenting on behalf of Jones and DeMille regarding the draft Cortez Transportation Master Plan. So that was a 3-phase project that they're working on. Phase 1 was a 2050 CDOT plan. And work that, this is a plan that needs to be submitted to CDOT on work that's going to happen in the CDOT right away. Phase 3 is having a website that has the transportation master plan, their reports and maps, and any relevant information that's around this project. So that should be coming out in the next few months. And this is in line with kind of our master streets plan and just looking at transportation in general in our community and understanding what roads need work, what roads are in good shape, where growth is, where our pain points are in our community. But that will be available to the public soon. And then we interviewed 2 applicants for the Cortez Historic Preservation Board, and we already made a decision on who we appointed. And then we had general council discussion. Several topics were brought up, and I encourage folks to watch the workshop. Sorry, I didn't write down everything folks said. So we'll move on to other board reports. 11B on our agenda. We'll start with Councilmember Kiefhoffer.
I attended the Mesa Verde Country Board meeting yesterday afternoon, and the biggest highlight is that the new Mesa Verde Country Guide is at the printer. 100,000 copies are being printed, 20,000 of which will be shipped directly to Europe to encourage international travel to Mesa Verde.
I attended the Homeless Coalition meeting regarding the proposed warming shelter. That was last Monday, not yesterday. I've noticed the fact that the bridge is currently functioning as a warming shelter at the current time. They want this to be a temporary situation. The group is looking at putting together a project that will come to fruition in the winter of 2025. That's as far as the warming shelter is concerned. The point-in-time count to look at how many homeless people are actually in the area happens at the end of this month. That'll give us some new insight into how many homeless people we actually have. And there's been an anecdotal increase reported in the amount of unsheltered or homeless people in the community, predominantly those that are using the day shelter. I've asked that we be provided with a little bit more information as far as hard data and numbers, and they're going to look into what they can provide us with. Thank you.
Last Thursday, I attended the board-to-board meeting along with Councilmember Dobry, Randall, and Spruill, and City Manager Sanders. And it was the first time I've attended this. It was very enlightening, where all the council members got together and just shared what's taking place in their town or city. Many of the same issues that we talk about here. I could spend a lot of time going over those topics, but I'll just let it go at that. If Councilmember Spruill wants to add anything, he can.
No, I don't have anything to add. It was real enlightening to see what our neighbors are doing and what issues they have. And a lot of their issues are our issues. And it's just good to get together and find out what our neighbors are doing.
All right, I missed the board-to-board meeting last week because I was attending the Colorado Municipal League, CML. They had a mayor summit last week, and they scheduled the mayor summit at the same time as the Western Stock Show that occurs in Denver every year. It's the biggest stock show, I think, on this side of the Mississippi. Really great event. We got to tour the facilities there that they're investing a lot of money and time in upgrading. And the stock show's been around for over 100 years, longer than even CML has been around. And so we got a tour, then we had dinner with the Denver mayor, and then we got tickets to the rodeo. And I ran into City Attorney Patrick Coleman there. He's been going there since he was in the womb, apparently. So, and then the next day was a workshop all day where we had different topics to talk about. We learned about strategic plans. So that's kind of one of my visions for our community is we have our council retreat where we talk about priorities, but that next step is having an actual strategic plan for us and staff where it kind of lays out how we meet these priorities over the next few years. So that's kind of a goal, I think, of hopefully our council or future councils to kind of really solidify that process and make a formal document around that. And then we talked about legal issues, got ideas about public comment that I brought up in the workshop, but just a really, really great event to kind of network and see where our other communities are doing, and just a good reminder of how blessed we are in our community and how well things are going. So, and then that also worked out well with, that was a Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday was the CML board meeting because I'm on the executive board for that. And so it's gonna, I'll try to make this quick, but I think this is really important information for our community. I'm just gonna run through a lot of the legislation that is being proposed at the state level and how it impacts municipalities and the stance that CML is taking. And remember, their goal is the effect it's going to have in municipalities, and they advocate on our behalf. So one of the bills is building codes, electronic fence detection systems, which it defines an electronic fence detection system as a security system that is used in conjunction with a fence. This bill restricts local government from imposing installation or operational requirements from an electronic fence detection system if they are inconsistent with the installation or operation requirements generally required for other alarm systems. We are taking the oppose position because this bill restricts local government from requiring a permit for installation or use of the systems. That is in addition to any permit required. This limits local government's ability to regulate or prohibit electronic fence detection systems. The next one is criminal justice, law enforcement whistleblower protection. This establishes a civil cause of action for peace officers who face adverse employment actions after reporting or disclosing conduct that they believe shows a danger to public health, safety, or an alleged violation of laws. We are taking the amend because we have amend stance, because we have questions on why current laws are inadequate. And so sometimes instead of opposing or supporting, we take an amend stance so that we can still be at the table to negotiate changes and improvements to a bill. The next one's criminal justice, Criminal Asset Forfeiture Act replaces civil asset forfeiture statutes with criminal forfeiture provisions restricting forfeiture to specific drug-related crimes tied to criminal convictions and limited federal involvement. It creates additional duties and processes for seizing and storing property, increasing administrative costs for compliance while also reducing forfeiture proceeds for local governments. So CML is taking an opposed stance to that. Municipal courts fairness and transparency in municipal court. So this bill aligns municipal sentencing limits with comparable state-level offenses for municipal offenses without state-level equivalents, caps sentences at 10 days. This bill prohibits mandatory minimum sentences and enhanced penalties unless tied to comparable state limits, consecutive sentences to twice the highest charge. So they're taking an amend stance in discussion centered around whether to oppose versus amend. Many municipalities are opposed to this. The next one is elections, the Colorado Voting Rights Act. This implements provisions to the Federal Voting Rights Act at the state level and adds substantial new components prohibiting actions that create or intend to create disparities in voter participation, access, or political engagement for protected classes. It bans election methods that dilute these groups' influence and bars voting qualifications based on gender identity and expression. The bill allows individuals or organizations to file civil suits alleging voter suppression or discrimination with the Attorney General, empowered to investigate or intervene. And this bill, we're taking an amend stance because questions around the provisions of the bill, what the scope is, and strategy, how to best accomplish their goals. There's another one where it's focused specifically on county and municipalities, but does not include special districts or school boards. So the next one's finance distribution of state money. This one was actually proposed by Representative Larry Don Sukla, but it modifies the distribution of money from 4 state funds to go directly to counties instead of those 4 state funds. But there's an opposed position to that because that's preferencing counties over municipalities. And then finance local government audit exemption thresholds. This was recommended by the Legislative Audit Committee, changes the thresholds that local governments must meet to qualify for an exemption from state auditing requirements. Currently, if a local government has total revenues and expenditures of $100,000 or less, they can apply for exemption. This limit will increase to $200,000 on January 1st, 2025. So the Policy Committee of CML is recommending to support that. Housing, improve infrastructure to reduce homelessness. This authorizes local governments to form special districts to reduce and prevent homelessness. It establishes how districts may be organized and dissolved, voting in district elections, and the financial and taxing powers of said districts. It also creates an interagency council on homelessness and an advisory council. We're taking an amend position, questions around the scope and how counties interact with the bill, whether the bill has legs. And sorry, I'm almost done here. Housing construction defect actions related to real property improvements. This is an opposed position. Discussions about whether which version of the bill this is. Okay. Let me find more that are more relevant to us. This one is a municipal authority over land acquired outside of municipal limits. This is about who has jurisdiction to have police power. So if the city was to own land outside of our city limits, can our police still have authority over that space? And so we're supporting that. Residential solar panel automated permitting. This is a land use one to propose this proposal requires municipalities over 5,000 in population to adopt an ordinance to implement an automated residential solar permitting platform, and we're opposing this. Open meetings, open records, this is about increasing the response time from 3 to 5 days. This bill is going to extend the response time from 3 to 5 days, and then for extenuating services, 7 to 10 days. But they wanted to take out the media and say that they still get the shorter response time and distinguish them from the community. And we want to amend that. Concerns around the media being treated differently than residents. And then to repeal the recycled carryout bag fee, we're opposing this because the merits of the fee and whether home rules have authority to do this anyway. This goes against home rule. allowing individual communities to decide if the fees or choice to opt out. And then, let's see. Parent charge. There was a severance tax, the Community Schoolyard Grant Program. This bill wants to create a community schoolyard grant program in the Division of Local Government within the Department of Local Affairs. The program would grant up to $150,000 per planning and up to $865,000 for construction of a community schoolyard. Bill uses $4 million from local government severance tax. We're opposing this because schools have not traditionally been recipients of the local government severance tax, so that would take $4 million away from local government for a new project for schools. So, okay, sorry, that was a lot. My eyes are hurting. And I'm happy to share this document, because there's more bills in here that I didn't even mention that are kind of minor, with Linda, so they can be part of our minutes. Okay. And then we're going to move on to 12 on our agenda, other items of business, executive session. We have none tonight, so 13 is public participation. All right, seeing none, we'll move on to 14 and ask for a motion to adjourn.
Madam Mayor, I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Lewis, seconded by Dobry.
Dobry,
Aye.
Lewis,
Aye.
Kiefhoffer,
Aye.
Randall,
Aye.
Sproul,
Yes.
and Medina.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you all.